The Orange Man is back, people. How did
China.
how did that happen? I'll be honest with you, I'm happy. I'm ecstatic at the fact that we've got a strong leader back in the White House. And it's something that I think the whole world has been yearning for. Now, we could spend this episode standing on the fence about what we believe and where our views are. And at some point, I'm going to break and blow everybody's mind with regards to society, government, and how everything actually works.
I'm prepared to have my mind blown.
You should be, because it's a good one. But the fact of the matter is, Donald Trump on the 20th of January is going to be sworn back into the White House, and the world has never been more desperate for it to happen. The last administration that we've had, with Joe Biden mumbling and stumbling his way through the presidency, no one had any confidence in that man being able to lead the free world and be able to actually bring any prosperity for all of us through, let's be honest, it was a tough time through COVID-19, where the whole pandemic created a big problem for every nation and every country in the world. It completely crippled us. So I do have to give my sympathy to Sleepy Joe with everything that he was doing, because it wasn't an easy task. And there are some things that he did that was great in terms of him and his administration. But my God, I'm happy for Donald to be back.
You got to have confidence in the person that is leading the free world. And all that's happened during Joe Biden's presidencies, you've had wars in Israel, wars in Ukraine, wars like all around the world. And it's just because people have looked at it and gone, here's our time now. We've got time, and we can actually sort of take advantage of the situation. We've got 4 years. People are strolling across the border, like in America, here, there, and everywhere. It's not even just America, but you know, you've now got someone in place. And even on the run up, you know, the border was starting to get better. You've now got him, you know, about to be sworn in. You've got Zelensky, Putin, all, you know, are just on that side of the fence going, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll talk to Donald, we'll talk to him, we'll get the war, we'll try and sort that one out. Yeah, we'll have peace. And he said it, didn't he? Day one. He goes, day one. I've got to do it. Day one, it'd be ended. The war would be gone. And it's like, there you go. And it's looking likely. It's looking likely.
The proof is in the pudding. The man is a man of action. And look, love him or hate him, he's a man that talks the talk and then walks the walk. He doesn't get everything right. Nobody does. Again, in a modern society, we've created this paradigm where you have to be right in everything that you say for you to be able to agree with someone. Just because, yes, some of what he might say isn't something that you agree with, that doesn't mean that you have to immediately dismiss everything the man stands for. Everything that he says is now immediately wrong or racist or anti-feminism. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, just to be able to take some of the things he said, which we all know what they are, I don't need to repeat them here. Obviously, some of the things he said are slightly misogynistic or very misogynistic, however you want to word it. That doesn't mean that he's wrong on everything and you need to immediately ostracize him and hang him up to dry just because he's made a few comments. Those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. If everybody had a camera on them in the world, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, we'd all be in jail. I guarantee it. Unless you're like the Dalai Lama living in as a monk up in the Buddhist temples where you don't do anything.
Even he's exiled, isn't he, from China?
Exactly. Even he got it wrong. Nelson Mandela ended up in jail. And unless any of you are that righteous, where you're like the second coming of Jesus, where you've never done any wrong, then again...
And even he ended up on a cross.
Exactly. And this is the point. He goes, just because somebody has said something that you don't agree with, whether it's Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whatever side of the party or the coin that you're on, the best thing that you can do is learn from the things that they say, create your own opinions. And if you don't like Donald Trump, ask yourself why. Is it because of something that you've seen on the media? Is it because of something somebody's told you? Have you fact checked that? Have you even spent the time to do your own research? Because one of the biggest things I see people saying about Donald Trump, he's racist. He just wants to kick out all of the immigrants. And it's like, well, okay, what's he actually done or said that's immediately racist? Now, again, I don't know whether there's something that he's probably said in his past that might be seen as racist, but, you know, the guy loves his country. He's identifying the problems in America right now that are the most pressing issues that need to be solved. He's identified immigration as being one of them. And so to solve the problem and to be president, unfortunately, that means making tough decisions. To be a leader means making tough decisions, because to be a good leader, you have to stand by your own convictions in what you believe to be right. Because if you haven't got the conviction in your own ability, where you're at the point you're questioning everything that you do, and you're asking for everybody else's opinion, don't get me wrong, to be a good leader, you have to seek counsel from those around you. But if he hasn't got the balls to be able to stand up and say, this is what we're doing, I'm the leader, and I've been elected to be the leader, and this is what we're doing as a country. If he's just pussyfooting around, asking for everybody's opinion, does everybody think this is okay? Oh, is that okay? Oh, does anybody mind if I do this? Which is what Joe Biden's done. You come across as weak, you come across as incompetent, and people will not listen. They will take advantage, as you said, and the world will fall into ruin, which you only have to open your eyes and look outside your window to see what's happened in the last 4 years.
I mean, one of the things that I find mad with Donald Trump on his previous term, he's one of the first presidents for a long, long time where there was no new wars. There was obviously still some wars going on, but, you had Bush, you had Bill Clinton, you've got like Obama, you've got like all these people, and Joe Biden, who is sandwiched in between. There's all new wars going on, whether it was Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Israel, and all these places. Whereas when you had a competent leader in, and I'm not saying, some of them were competent leaders, but it shows you that there's something special about him where it wasn't happening now. People say he snuggles up to some people and, gets into bed with Kim Jong-un. I don't know. Maybe he's a good spooner. Who knows? But I think he's got a way with how he deals with other foreign leaders. He's got a way of how he deals with people that gets the best results.
Okay, so I'm about to blow your mind now because you've just led me into a segue as to the point as to why there might not have been any new wars during Donald Trump's term. Donald Trump is a businessman. And again, people will say, well, he inherited all his money. No, he didn't. Because a fool and his money are soon parted. If I was to go and give Joe Schmo on the street or some homeless bloke 100 million or even $1 million, it'd be gone in a week. It would be run out. And he inherited, yes, a large sum of wealth, but he converted his knowledge, his experience, and he turned that wealth into billions and billions and billions of dollars. And that is no easy feat regardless.
It's not a bad return.
And yes, just because he had a silver spoon in his mouth doesn't mean that he still didn't turn it into gold. So the fact that he's so good at business and the economy was so strong under Donald Trump, he understands business and he understands what businesses need to grow and survive. So, blow your mind time. Society is broken into 3 categories. You've got the rich, you've got the poor, and then you've got the government that are overseeing the lot of them. Now, the government needs 2 different things from each of these categories. From the rich, they're a minority. So from the rich, they need money. From the poor, they're the majority. There's far more poor people. They need votes. And so the whole scam of society is that the rich give money to the government along with a set of ideologies, a set of things that they need to be completed or done throughout that government's term to increase their value or to increase their riches. So what the government will then do is promise to give the poor what they want, which in reality is to become rich. Now, what the poor people will say is, we hate the rich, tax the rich, get rid of them, we don't like them. But let's be honest. If anybody that was poor was given the opportunity to be rich at the grant of a wish from a genie, they would take that wish in a heartbeat. And their mindset would immediately change from tax the rich, we hate the rich, to I want to keep my money. Hold on, don't tax the rich. I've changed my mind. And so the illusion that gets created by the government is that everybody that's poor, through our government, we will make you rich. We will give you loads of money, which in turn creates votes for that government. The rich are sat on the other side of it, giving money to the government, telling them what to do. So when the government issues money out to these poorer people, what do they do with it?
Spend it. Where
do they spend it?
In the shops.
Who owns the shops?
The rich people.
Absolutely. So when they... So they have this big circle of people where the poor people are feeding the rich through the money that is given to them from the government, which is then feeding the rich even more. And the rich are then feeding more money to the government, giving the government more ideas, giving them more control, telling them what they need to be doing. And you can apply this logic to anything that you see, any new legislation that gets brought out. So regarding immigration, let's just break that down. Immigration is the large movement of people into a country who are usually more disenfranchised and usually they're lower skilled, lower cost labourers. Who's that good for?
The rich, because it's good for employers who want to hire cheap labour.
Absolutely. Cheap labour comes in. So instead of employing the current poor people that are working and living in the country already, they get super poor people in from another country and they employ them instead, which means that they've now got an influx of new people that they can exploit at a lower labour. Guess what? Increasing the value of their business. Great for them. So what does the government have to do? The government has to create houses for these people and has to give them more money, give them aid and give them rent. Who's providing and building the houses?
The government, but by the money from the rich people.
Who owns the companies that are building the houses?
Yeah, the rich.
The rich. So we've now created further problems where these poor people that are coming into the country are getting given money from the government to then feed the rich even more. And this is where this whole bubble is being created. And the gap between the rich and the poor is growing even more because the rich own everything. And then the middle class are the ones that are getting taxed the absolute most, which is they're the ones getting really shafted in this because they're the ones that have all of their money still within the country that are working their best to try and increase their value as much as they can, but they can't escape this ever-increasing tax that's being bestowed onto them by the government to help pay for the infrastructure for all of the new influx of people and for the poor people underneath them. But the rich people, and again, this is where people just get it so wrong and it blows my mind, tax the rich, tax the rich. Guess what? You can't tax the rich because all of their companies, all of their assets, all of their shares are set up in the Cayman Islands, so they can't be taxed. So the government will
tax the middle class.
They'll tax the middle class because they can't tax the rich because guess what? The money will dry up if they tax the rich. And they'll say, unfortunately, we're not giving you money now, Mr. Government. So we're going to leave and we're going to go take our business and our money elsewhere. So the government play dumb and they say, we don't know how to tax the rich or we can't tax the rich because they can't because they're not in control. So they tax the middle class. And so what happens is, again, the rich continue to stay rich. They can't be taxed. The middle class are continuing to be taxed out of their eyeballs. Meanwhile, the poorer people are continuing to be paid in sort of like stimulus checks or through benefits that they get from the government, which gives them the incentive to vote for that government. So the poor people vote for whichever government is going to give them the most money. And the middle class are the ones left floundering because they're the ones getting taxed to the hilt.
It's a fucking joke, isn't it?
But that's society.
And small businesses as well. Then they're the middle class. They're the middle class of businesses. They get shafted again the most because they're the ones that haven't got necessarily the resources all the time to go to the Cayman Islands and rent an office for however much.
Exactly right. And people can think like whatever you want now, even if these poorer people are trying to be smart about what they use with their money, and most of the time they're not. The reason they're poor, being honest, is because they spend all of their money rather than use it to grow, increase their value, to learn, and they just spend it. Where do they spend it? Nike. Who owns Nike? Rich person. Spend it on Amazon. Who owns it? Rich person. Spend it on a wine.
Cars.
Who owns the wine? It's owned by probably LVMH, some Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. Who owns that? A rich person. So every time they spend their money, all they're doing is giving it to the super rich. And even if they invest the money in companies, who owns the companies?
The rich people.
So again, they're the ones that are benefiting. And if we could draw all this out on a diagram, and really hopefully with what we've just said, it should open some of your minds as to how society actually works. And the reason, bringing it back to sort of Donald Trump, is that through his time of prosperity, he understands that to bring the whole country up, he needs to ensure that small businesses and people are being incentivized through increasing their value and making America great again through growing the small businesses, not trying to destroy them. It's the smaller businesses that are helping to give back more to the local communities, because Amazon, at the end of the day, they're feeding into sort of their large companies. They're based in the Cayman Islands, so they can't be taxed. So the small businesses, Donald Trump recognizes that they're the backbone of the country and their finances. And again, it's the same in this country. So when people say tax the rich, the only people that they're affecting is the middle class and below, including themselves.
Yeah, because if then the companies just, they will pay their fair share of what they deem is reasonable in the country that they are so located, provided that it makes commercial sense. But then the minute that a government does tax those companies more, they either, like you say, if there's too much pressure by the poor people, they just then move and just go somewhere else and go, tell you what, then I'll take all my tax revenue and I'll take all of it and go somewhere else. And then there's less money for the poor people. And then you end up in a bit of a death spiral going down, where there's more companies leaving, less people getting more money. So then more companies leave, less people get more, and it ends up like that, I suppose.
The other great con, the media. Because, and again, look, you can call me a conspiracy theorist all you like, but the proof is in the pudding. Because again, the media controls what the general public believe to be true. And guess who controls the media? The big companies, the big corporations. They're the ones that are sharing the news and sharing the information that most benefits those big companies. So take any big news topic of the last five years. Okay, let's take climate change. The governments are going to contribute hundreds of millions of pounds to fight climate change. Who are they going to pay? It's not the sun. They're going to just sort of like try and bribe the sun to cool it down a little bit. So
turn down the thermostat.
Exactly. Who are they going to pay?
The rich companies.
Exactly. Because again, Joe Schmo, who lives down the road on Benefit Street, he hasn't got any way of cooling down climate change. He don't know what he's doing. He hasn't got a company or a big NGO that's going to help to fight climate change. So guess who they're going to pay? The rich who own the companies. So once again, climate change or immigration, they create all these news stories to create the full story to allow governments to put more money into their pockets. And I'm not saying that these things aren't true. I'm not saying they don't happen. I'm not saying climate change doesn't exist. I'm just saying use your head a little bit and think about who's actually pushing the narrative and who's actually benefiting from these things, because you know, tax the rich and all these things. They're trying to make everybody fight amongst themselves that's at the sort of middle and bottom end of this curve. Meanwhile, the people at the top are just laughing their asses off, going, these bunch of idiots haven't got a clue what we're doing at the top of the hill, because they're all down there fighting amongst themselves like a bunch of idiots and continuing to pay us.
Well, I've heard it before that they say, you know, if you got, say, some brown ants and blue ants and put them in a jar and you just left the jar on its own, they'd be absolutely fine, work together, you know, build the colony. But then if you get someone that then starts shaking the jar, the blue ants and the brown ants start fighting each other. And it's like, it's quite a funny analogy for the thing. And if you think about it a bit, you know, you could almost say that that's the media, the government, trying to stir things up, knocking people around, trying to make sure that the infightings between each other are not where it's meant to be.
Exactly. Or you could say it's like Libs and Dems or something, or you could say it's Conservatives and Labour, or whichever country you're in. They create these groups of people so that we can all fight amongst ourselves and think that our vote actually makes a difference. When the reality is, your vote means naff all. The government aren't going to make much of a difference in your day-to-day life. You need to think about what you're doing to increase your value and to make yourself be, towards the top end of that scale. As much as I've made them sound, to be sort of the evil rulers of the world, they're just business people. They've solved a problem, whether it's Jeff Bezos, he's still doing a lot of philanthropy. He's still helping the world move forward. But the reality is, he wants to push his agenda to help his business because he feels like his agenda and his business is the best way for humanity or for him to go in, and he needs the resources to do it.
Yeah, and the best way to get out of really the question then that a lot of people ask is like, how do I escape? How do I get out of this? And I suppose it's a simple answer. It's to do the things that we've said, increase your value, and then don't be silly with your money. Invest it wisely, invest it in yourself, but protect it as much as you can. No one's ever got rich from receiving just, money in your bank, like and a weekly salary. No one gets rich from a salary.
Watch The Brothers in Business.
Exactly.
No, we have got episodes on that with increasing your value and sort of escaping society as you know it. We're not there yet. We're on the journey, but we're also trying to help as many people as we can. So again, we have a company, we employ 15 people, and the government has very little effect on our business because we'll always find a way around it. We'll always find a way to solve the problem and continue to push out and grow our business forward. But for me, after blowing your mind, sort of taking it back to sort of Donald Trump and him as a person, all I've seen from him gives me nothing, as you said, confidence in his ability to lead the country and the world, because the reality is whoever is in the White House is responsible for the world at large, because the global currency is run off the US dollar. They have the largest
economy in the world.
They have the largest economy. They have the largest military. They have the largest armament of nuclear weapons. So if the person responsible for that can't even get up a flight of stairs, the world's in trouble, pretty much. So the man got shot in the ear. He was inches, even been told sort of centimetres, millimetres away from being shot through the head, and that's him life over. And he was on the floor for 10 to 15 seconds, majoritively due to the fact that the Secret Service were keeping him there to make sure the threat was neutralised. And he was up in 15 seconds shouting, fight, fight. And if that doesn't give you confidence in a man's ability to lead or his ability to stand in the face of danger or even death and stay calm, stay confident, stay resistant, for me, you can't say anything, but that's a man that I could get behind and I could follow as a leader.
Yeah, 100%. And think of the polar opposite. Somewhere in a parallel universe right now, Kamala Harris won. I couldn't even... there's just no way any of this stuff would... You wouldn't have Zelensky and Putin going on about, oh yeah, we might want to call the war now. And just every world leader... Piers Morgan goes on about it, and I know I quite like some of the things he says and don't on some stuff, but he's saying that everyone is just going over to Mar-a-Lago and going, oh God, we want to see Trump and we want to do this. And he made the joke. Do you see what he said to Trudeau, who now's left, which is hilarious? And he goes, oh God, you've been on about tariffs and, it's, oh God, we really don't want to be imposed tariffs upon Canada. We don't really want, it's not going to be very fair. And Trump just made the joke and said, well, Trudeau, if you can't deal with it, maybe you want to become the 51st state of America. And it's like, if you can't stand on your own 2 feet, how about, and then he made a joke saying you can be the governor. So it's like, he's making these sorts of jokes, but again, it shows how competent, confident, and just how in his stride the man's going to be. And because he's only got 4 years, he's going to just do absolutely everything he possibly can as quickly as he can to get the job done at the absolute best of his ability.
Well, the strength that he's showing to people is what's bringing this element of calm. And there is sort of serenity in that, amidst that strength and that aggression, because when you are bold enough to be able to stare at the face of danger, as you said, or to be able to look at these really tough problems and tough opponents in the likes of Putin, the likes of Kim Jong-un, and some of these world leaders, the Taliban that he dealt with in Afghanistan, and stand strong rather than cowering away in fear and not dealing with the problem head on, people are going to take advantage. And so because he's that type of person where he loves his country and by proxy, he loves the rest of the world, he wants the world to be prosperous, and that's why he has to show strength. And for me, the biggest way that he's shown strength now is with this team of Avengers that he's assembled around himself with, Vivek, with JD Vance, RFK, Elon Musk, what a great shout. And the best thing is, even people on the opposition, and I go back to what I said at the start, where just because you don't agree with someone on everything doesn't mean that you should automatically try to bring them down, destroy everything they stand for. Try and work with them on their weaknesses, which is what Bernie Sanders has gone and done. He's now working directly with Elon Musk to help bring down some of the unnecessary costs that the government is incurring in the USA through overspend, high employment, unnecessary employment, waste. And Elon, as we saw with Twitter, fired 80% of the staff, 80%. And then what happened to Twitter? Well, funnily enough, it still works just fine. In fact, it's growing. So how on earth, when they're working at only 20% of the capacity of the team, are they still able to grow? To me, that screams waste. You've got a bunch of people at Twitter that were sat on a beanbag in a coffee room doing yoga and being paid $50,000 a year, $100,000 in some cases, and they're doing meditation throughout the day. It's mental. And Elon's just must have walked in, and I go back to the value, and he must have seen these idiots with their sort of yoga pants on, sat on a beanbag, asking, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a moderator of the chats. And he's there thinking, right, well, you're gone. You're a waste of time. What's the point? I'm wasting so much money. And think how many cases there are in the government where we're paying these people and we're asking, and, we should be enraged by all of this. If you've not watched this video, if you're not watching now and you're not pissed off with some of the things that we've just gone into with how the government works, how society works, you should be furious because we're the ones paying for it all. And, I pay my taxes, you pay your taxes. And, everybody at this, as I said, the scale, there and below, they're the ones being shafted and paying the most taxes. We're paying for these idiots to be in the office, to be in the government.
It drives me up the flipping because they really with the government, it is just essentially another tax on people because you're paying, they don't create profits to pay these people. They just bring it in through tax and pay wages off other people's taxes. So it's essentially like another tax on your already taxed money. So when Elon comes in and Vivek comes in and they say, we're going to cut the government down, it just makes complete sense. I mean, Javier Milei in Argentina, he's done exactly the same thing. And I swear I read it just the other day that the country's now in a surplus of trade or something along them lines for the first time since the start of the 2000s or something like. Again, it was something along those lines. And he did it. I mean, there's that video where he's like walking along a whiteboard and obviously in Spanish in Spanish, he's going afuera, like with all the departments walking up this board, and it's like Department of Education, afuera, and he's like throwing it away, and he's getting rid of all these things. He's getting rid of all the departments that aren't needed, and now it's worked. It's already turning a corner.
And this is a thing when you don't. Sometimes if we think of like, frostbite, it's a weird analogy, but sometimes you've got to chop off a limb to save the body. It's true. And what we've allowed ourselves is to inflate this bunch of idiots running around. I mean, look, everybody's seen those videos of like the House of Lords, the Houses of Parliament with a bunch of rambling clowns where they're murmuring over each other in a room like idiots. I've never seen such a bunch of it's like a farmyard. It's like old McDonald's farm with a bunch of clucking chickens on a bench. I've never seen anything like it. How they get anything done in that room blows my mind. And the proof again is in the pudding. Nothing gets done. The country is in a complete downward spiral, in a state of complete disrepair, to the point where, again, Elon Musk, praise be to God, he's even decided to start partnering up with people like Nigel Farage, who's noticed what's happening to the UK. We were the leading superpower in the world. We had the largest empire known
to ever exist,
known to anyone ever in history. The British Empire. Look at us now. What a fall from grace that is, thanks to the idiots like Keir Starmer.
He's giving more away. He's trying to give islands away still now.
Mental.
They don't even want it. They don't even want it. But again, it comes down to there must be some sort of rich company's incentive for probably doing it. You don't know.
Probably is. And again, I'll go back to, you've talked on like giving territory away. Who prospers in war? The companies that are making all the ammunition.
Yeah. Lockheed Martin.
There's a film
General Dynamics.
There's a film called War Dogs that shows you exactly and it's a great film. You should watch Jonah Hill, Miles Teller, I think his name is. Great film. And it goes into the actual financial side of war and the money that's involved and who benefits, the companies, who doesn't benefit, the people that they've coerced and convinced that there's a problem over in Afghanistan or Iraq where they need to send a bunch of soldiers who are on the poorer end of the scale to go and die for a war that they're funding and making the rich richer again. So again, look, I don't want to digress and get back into it all, but you all just need to use your brain and sort of see what's going on. Because it's really important. But Donald Trump, he's coming back. Sanity has prevailed. The world is orders being restored. And hopefully the likes of Justin Trudeau, gone. The likes of
Afuero,
the likes of Keir Starmer, Afuero, get rid of him.
We're both probably butchering. Anyway,
get rid of him. But the point stands that a country is like a business. And for there to be a strong business, we've got to have money in. We've got to find a way to keep the money going in. But if the overheads outweigh the generation of income, you're losing money. No business could sustain that, but somehow we make an excuse for the country. And what do? We just print more cash and we just inflate the value of the currency. And what does that do? Make the rich rich and the poor poor again. So this is why, with the likes of Donald Trump coming in, and love him or hate him, regardless, watch this space, because he's done it once, he'll do it again. Elon Musk will go in, and guess what he'll do? Treat the country like a business. And what will he do? Look at overheads. Where are we spending too much money? Bring them down. How do we make more money? Drill, baby, drill. And again, I don't want to be a climate activist or not. I'm not saying it's the best thing for the planet. It's obviously not. But we have to be realistic about the state of the world we're in right now. And we need to restore a bit of law and order to it. And for that to happen, we've got to make a few sacrifices, not like Keir Starmer by taking pensioners' heating away from them during the winter like an idiot and increasing everybody's taxes, making some sacrifices like, increasing infrastructure, increasing some tariffs, bringing industry back to countries and bringing manufacture back to countries by imposing tariffs. And love him or hate him, trust me, watch this space. I'll eat my words in 4 years. If I'm wrong, I highly doubt it, because I think the next 4 years are going to be the most prosperous time for the world, certainly in comparison to the last 4 years that we've had under this bloody bumbling, mumbling idiot, Joe Biden.
I mean, the thing with the oil part of it as well, though, for the climate people, for the most part, if America drills more oil in America, it's better for climate, because if they don't do it in the USA, which is renowned for clean drilling and clean the way they do it, the way they process everything. Instead, it goes to India and China and these other countries that they're like Iran and all these places that don't do it as, there's spillages in the sea, kills marine life. And then it's transported to America anyway by vessel, which also is worse for the climate. So it makes sense to drill it in the home country where you can just pipe it straight to where it needs to go. It's like with England, we've got flipping that much oil. We just don't want to use it because of craziness, but we'll import it on a vessel from India instead.
Tell you why it is. It's because of these lovely idiots at the Just Stop Oil that are sitting in the road like a bunch of clowns, gluing themselves to it and preventing everybody from getting into work and going about their day, or throwing soup at paintings or chalk on a pool table, because they're a bunch of clowns that got nothing better to do. They're just unemployed losers who have found a purpose to just disrupt the entire of society and try and protect the environment. Where if you were to ask any of them about any of the science that they believe or any of the science that backs up climate change, they'd all be there with a face like stone. They wouldn't have a clue what to say. And they'd all just be like, well, I'm only doing it because he's doing it, or I'm only doing it to be a bit of a knob and glue myself to the road.
Yeah.
And there's no foundation behind why they're doing it, because they're a bunch of sheep.
Yeah. And they're just following what they see as their strong leader, but the world has spoken. We've got the orange man back in, who's the world's strong leader, and we will follow him. Salute to you, good sir.
Absolutely. Donald Trump. Let's hope we're not wrong, because we've said
I was going to say,
we've
this
said a
is
lot
in ink now, not pencil. We've got to erase it.
We've said a lot in this podcast. And look, again, I'll eat my words, but I strongly believe that the right man won. The country that has voted him in believes he's the right man. It was a clean sweep. He stands for free speech. He stands for bolstering and empowering small businesses, the country, make America great again. He wants to save money for everybody on that spectrum, not just the rich, because guess what? Donald Trump can't be bought. Why? Because he's worth billions. He's the only president in history of time to not take a salary. He doesn't take a penny for doing the job of being a president. And again, love him or hate him, but nobody on planet Earth would go to work. Apparently, I think he worked leading up to the election. He worked every single day, 50 days for about 18 hours a day, every single day at the age of 70, 78.
No, yeah, 70. He's almost 80.
He's almost 80 and he worked every day for 50 days. And you're telling me that that's a man, and he does it for free, for nothing. He doesn't take a salary as president, and he's the only person to never do it.
Stamina.
Absolutely.
Stamina.
He's got great stamina. And this is the thing. So why would you not want him to lead? So when you've got someone like that, who's not taking a salary, who can't be bought because he's worth billions. So these rich corporations can't influence him because he can't be bought, because he doesn't need their money. He cares about the country and he cares about making America great again. And I just hope that with the introduction of Donald Trump and the removal of people like Justin Trudeau, the French one's next, if they've not already gone, and then bringing somebody into this country, the United Kingdom, which I love, and everybody loves the UK. Everybody that lives here deep down loves the UK. We just want to see change.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me. I mean, patriotism levels. I'm flying a flag outside my house at the minute, so I mean, I'm all for it. We just want someone in who's going to be doing it in the government as opposed to relying on just the people.
That's it. We need a strong leader. So, like you said, we've deep dived a few interesting topics today. Obviously, we've given you all an insight into how society really, really works. And if you take nothing away from this video, remember that society is the one that is out to get you. And the only way to get out of it is by increasing your value. So continue to stick around and watch some episodes. We are here to actively help you to increase your value. That is the sole reason why we are doing this podcast. Talking about the topics that we do is to help give back to people. And we're already working with people on a daily basis in whatever field that they're currently in, whether it's marketing, sales, whether it's in finding a new job, starting a business, whatever you want to do, reach out to us. We will help you for free. This business, our company will turn over £5 million. And yes, there are businesses that do far more than us, but we've been there. We've done it. We've done it for over a decade. If you want to start a business, if you need help, reach out to us. Instagram, Facebook, email, phone, whatever it is, all of our details are listed around this podcast for you to reach out to us, get in touch, and we'll be happy to help. But again, hopefully a bit of food for thought. The Orange Man is back, and hopefully in 4 years' time, we won't be eating our words and the world will be a better place. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.